Welcome to the Battle Ready Podcast. My name is Aaron McManus, and I'm here with my dad, Erwin McManus.
Good morning. Good to see you.
It's good to see you.
You are very spicy today. Wouldn't that be the right phrase?
I'm feeling good. Today's good. I'm good.
It's good. I've been up for hours, and it's a good morning for me, too.
It is good.
I went to bed early for me, which means before midnight.
Yeah, you did.
I did.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's nice. I was watching The Expanse.
I started watching The Expanse, and then I fell asleep.
Yeah. I really like it. I'm in season 5, so I'm.
Oh, no,
I'm
I like
loving
it. Just some days you just, ready to go to sleep.
Okay.
And woke up early this morning, got going, went and worked out, made a commitment that all of March I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to try to do, I think, a 30-day juice fast through the month of March.
All right, we're doing it together.
And I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to lose weight, put on muscle, burn off 10 years of my age. Get back.
Are you cutting out a certain beverage that we don't like to discuss? Diet Coke.
You know what I hate? I hate when you commit to make your life better and someone else wants to tell you how to do it.
It was like
if I'm not hiring you to be like my health coach, don't talk to me about my diet
my
coke.
job description.
Boom, boom. I don't tell you.
He said,
not
"I'm
to
doing
eat,
juicing." I was like, "I'm juicing." I was like, "Oh, you getting rid of Diet Coke?" And he's like, "Well, I didn't say that."
Well, I mean, I'm not getting rid of coffee.
It's good. Yeah. Coffee's au natural. Coffee's natural.
Yeah. I'll probably stick with healthy, organic liquids.
Okay.
And so I'm, unless I have extreme migraines because of my addiction to caffeine.
You might need to wean off of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to try to go cold turkey on the Diet Coke because the caffeine will probably help me.
The caffeine will help you, yeah.
But I tried that once years ago. I stopped cold turkey and it almost killed me.
Projectile vomiting. It was like you were having a...
I'm not addicted.
I was like, you're addicted. Can we, how was your weekend? Was it good?
I had a great weekend.
I did too. Thanks for asking.
Well, tell me about your weekend.
I didn't do too much, but I just hung out with friends. Just caught up with people.
Well, I caught up with friends and made new friends, which is always really fun.
Okay.
And I over the weekend between Thursday night to Saturday night, got to hang out with about 5 or 6 different individuals who all came out of nothing to become maybe not billionaires, but incredibly successful financially and starting corporations, entrepreneurs. My heart is beating so loud right now.
We're doing some construction in the main room at Mosaic in Hollywood, so
that's all right. We can keep going though.
We'll keep going.
So I get to interact with these guys and listen to their stories, get some insight into the way they think and the experience that they've have.
Are you going to name drop, or are you just going to keep it?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm going to keep it.
They're very cool people.
Because I'm not. I don't really like when people name drop, but I can name drop names that they name dropped.
How about you get them on the pod at some point? But you're working on a new project. Do we want to talk about that new project, or do we want to hold off until? We got to start talking about it soon.
Yeah, I think we should start talking about it.
You're going to do your own podcast.
Should I announce what my next book's called?
No.
You sure?
No?
I think we should.
We could, and then we could just bleep it all out.
Can you go to Amazon and see if it's already listed on Amazon?
Yes, I can. I'm wondering.
Because yes, it is. It's all trademarked.
We have all the web stuff, right? And do we have the socials?
Let's see if my publisher has put it on Amazon.
Take anything. I'm checking all of our web stuff.
It's there as an audiobook. Yeah. Just an audiobook. Just an audible audiobook.
That's crazy because I haven't done it yet. I can tell you that if you buy the audiobook, you're going to get 8 hours of silence.
That's a great subtitle.
Okay, and I do have
Is that good?
And I do have the URLs. So we are good.
All right, so I'm going to announce it right now.
No. I don't have the socials, but I don't think we're gonna create its own Instagram. Maybe get the before it says before the
Hey
name.
guys, you are right now watching what happens behind
Bleep
the
me out,
scenes.
Brian.
This is what, when you pull the curtain back, this is how we do it. I go with big announcements. Everyone starts crying around trying to do what we should
This
have
is
done
what
before.
we call the truffle shuffle.
and then later in a private room, Aaron goes, "Dad, why won't you give us any heads up? Why won't you give us notice? You just dump everything on us, go public, and then we have to do all the work."
This is how it happens, though. He mentions like, "Oh, this next project, I think I'm gonna call it this," and there's a group text that goes out, and we just get all the URLs. We start working on all the socials. We start getting all of the things. So I purchased this website 6 months ago, maybe a year ago.
Yeah.
All the different versions of the website. So make sure we go and do this before this gets launched. Make sure we get the .org, because I didn't get the .org. Get the other things. You want to talk about it?
So should I announce it? Yeah.
Sure. But I don't know if you should announce the book or if you should announce the project that's coming before the book.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to begin, I guess, a spinoff from that already, a podcast.
He's leaving me.
I'm not leaving you.
Me papa has grown up. He's all grown up. And he's leaving me.
I'm going to do a series of
No, papa.
interviews with people that I've connected to or met around the world.
Yes.
And it's going to be called The Genius Of. And
Wait, pause. Moment of silence. This is where Brian's going to insert like a Super Smash Brother Ultra move.
since I have no idea what that is.
Some oohs and ahs.
Ooze.
And so part of the fun of the podcast is going to be a
Yes.
conversation with these world-class entrepreneurs, thinkers, leaders, writers, artists, creatives, and we'll be digging into extracting their personal genius.
Yeah.
And so each time it's going to be the genius of ... the genius of Aaron McManus.
That's really cool.
And
Hey, I don't know if I can get on that podcast yet.
and that's going to be a lot of fun.
This will be a lot of fun.
And it's going to be available on,
I don't know. Can we talk about it? We could talk about it.
It's going to be available on a new app that we're putting together, that you're putting together, your team.
Yeah.
And it's called Origins.
Yes.
And so we'll have an Origins app. And on the Origins app, you can actually get the genius of.
Yes.
And that's going to be really exciting.
And can we make sure we have all those things? Because I don't think we have all those things yet. Okay.
And
So we have a new app coming out called the Origins app, which basically will have, it's going to be really cool. It's going to have a mixture of both like some church stuff, some leadership stuff, some development stuff. This podcast, I think, is probably going to go on the Origins app.
Yep.
We've talked about maybe not doing it on iTunes anymore, Spotify, YouTube, and just taking it on the app.
which I think is actually going to be really exciting.
I do too.
And for
Some
everyone
people
who
are freaking out right now.
Everyone who's old school, like if you were part of what we were doing 20 years ago, you know Origins was the name of our original conference.
The original conference.
And so when I started
Before there was Mosaic,
yes.
there was Origins.
Yes. And I started Origins, and when I wrote An Unstoppable Force, at the beginning of the book, it actually talks about the origins of all things. And so Origins was the initial concept. It would have been as likely that our church's name would have become Origins as it was Mosaic.
Should we show the little, like, if you're watching on YouTube, can we show them the little intro thing?
Oh, can we put that
Do you
on
want to
there?
drop that? Do you want
Let's
to?
drop
Oh
it.
my gosh.
We're
Yes.
just spoiling everything today.
It's gonna be it'd be kind of cool.
This is going to be the best podcast.
I think so. So
and honestly, it sounds just as cool. So
it does.
Oh, can you
It
do the sound?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll play it all.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
awesome.
So if you're listening to this, I'm so sorry. You're gonna have to go find it on the YouTube as well.
Yeah.
On the YouTube?
The YouTube video.
Now you sound like you're 60.
Well, if I was you, it'd be the YouTubes.
Great. So do we want to cut to it right now and then come back?
Yeah, cut to it right now.
Cut to it right now.
All right. Space, the final frontier. So, that's not it.
Origins.
All right, here we go. So I'm excited because I've always been fascinated with the entire arena of genius.
Yes.
And probably from as early age as I can remember, was drawn to studying geniuses and the whole dynamic of what makes a person a genius. And then by the time I got to college at Chapel Hill, I was studying a lot of dynamics of sociopathic personality like disorders and just was really trying to understand the dynamic relationship between a genius and a sociopath or a narcissist, and because it seemed like there was like this cluster of human characteristics that can go really dark, can go really bright, and so out of that has led me for probably 30 years to study this arena. So this is not a new place. This is something I've been cultivating, developing most of my adult life.
So essentially, you're going to bring on geniuses in their own right.
Yeah, and also to help every person realize and discover that they also have their own personal genius. And it's really about identifying that and building your life on it.
And how to unlock that and how to identify it and how to build on it.
Yeah, and the nice thing about it is that you don't have to be a genius at everything. You don't have to be a genius at what someone else is a genius at. You just need to find your genius and revel and enjoy that. And so we'll tell you more as we unwrap everything, when we launch everything in the weeks and months to come. But everything will be fully developed by the fall. Do you know
who your first guest will be?
I'm not sure who my first guest will be. I know that I'm going to interview probably half a dozen people before we go live.
Okay.
And
will it live on Origins app?
It will live on the Origins app.
Ooh, exclusive content on Origins.
And I think some of it is that I feel like the internet is so saturated with endless content. And it's hard to filter out between what's valuable, what's garbage, what's good, what's bad, what's great. And I just don't want to be in the deluge of all of that content pouring out there nonstop. I would rather create one space where people can go, I know I can go here and get really interesting content.
Yeah.
And so I want to have a community that we work for to provide great thinking, great conversations, great content for them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. That's really cool.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I think it's going to be really good, something I've been wanting to do all my life. And it's something that I didn't think I wanted to do when I was 30, but it wouldn't have been, I think I wouldn't have been postured well at 30 to do this. But now that I'm 62, I can, look back on life and go, hey, there are a few things that I've been able to watch over 6 decades that I think if you can get this at 26, it's going to accelerate your life. And that's been a huge thing for me. One of the things I want to do in people's lives is I want to accelerate your success or accelerate your progress or accelerate your development. Like you might get there anyway without me and without anyone, but
not, though.
But you'll get there faster.
Yeah.
If you let people invest in your life.
Right.
And I wish that I'd had that in my 20s. I could have condensed 30 years of growth into 3 years of journey. Yeah.
It's so good. I love that. It'll be exciting. We got some exciting things happening.
We really, really, really do.
And we're about to go away on a trip. I think we're taking like quite a bit of people, like quite a decently big crew to go up. Should we say where we're going? We're going to go to the desert. We're going to shoot a bunch of things for a project we're working on as well. And that's going to be exciting. I'm looking at the call times on all the production. What is it?
We're going up the Joshua Tree, right?
The Joshua Tree.
And you guys are getting up at 3 a.m?
Like 3 in the morning, like 3 days in a row. I don't know.
That doesn't really work for me. I don't think that's in my contract.
No, your day's a little bit later, but you're still waking up like at 5:30. But it's going to be an exciting. It's going to be an exciting week. That's what he thinks. I will be in your room, me and Kevin Pena jumping on your bed.
Kevin, your job is to make sure I am not bothered.
Anyways, so we're getting ready to have like a pretty busy week. We're wearing some new stuff that we're going to release, which is kind of cool too.
So much good going on. Well, Joshua Tree, we're going up there to create content for Mosaic, for Easter, for Palm Sunday, for the whole celebration of Jesus' resurrection from the dead. And it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful Sunday. And
it's going to be a beautiful Sunday.
We just wanted to do something different than being in the studio where you're seeing me speak in front of a camera. We wanted to create some visual stimulation to make something really beautiful and create a context for worship.
Yeah. I'm excited. It'd be exciting.
Mm-hmm. And then you mentioned the clothes, and I do see you have our Battle Ready T-shirt.
I do.
And jamais.
It looks good.
Battle Ready. It's really beautiful. I love that.
It looks good.
But covering up
Is it
that
still for
T-shirt,
sale?
Is it still for sale? I don't know.
Brian. Maybe.
What an excellent question.
It might be.
I don't
It's
know
still for sale.
because I guess I have to go online and buy it because I still don't have
Well,
one.
they sent me a sample, and they didn't send me a sample that would fit you. This thing barely fits me. It's little.
Okay, that must be the size for no muscles. And
Not already. I wasn't ready today. Okay.
And you're wearing, and I'm just going to say this because I've seen how a lot of the things that I make at the McManus Gallery are very short units. They're very limited collections. So I thought, oh, it'd be really cool to let the Battle Ready people know before anybody else knows. So what Aaron is wearing right now, and what I'm wearing right now, and then even the pants are going to go online in
Don't make any commitments. I have no
a
idea.
few days or during March
not a few
sometime.
days. It won't be a few days. I'll be in Joshua Tree going buck
Oh,
wild.
that's right. Okay.
No, it won't be a
Before
few
March
days.
is over, they'll
Yeah,
be
there will be. We're going to do some things this month. I'm excited. Okay, Brooke, I have a question.
You have a question.
Yeah, well, you have a question.
I do.
That's my
So
question.
someone has a question. Okay.
Do you have a question?
Yes, I've been wanting to ask you guys this for a long time,
Oh, okay.
which is how do you remain committed to something that is out of your control?
What an interesting question, bro.
Oh, well, thank you, Aaron. And someone on the Battle Ready Live you did before we filmed this
Yes.
had a similar question.
What was their question?
You know I never say it right.
Okay, hey, the question was, how do you lead when you're not in charge?
Yes.
So which one do you want to tackle first?
Well, I think those are two interesting questions related, but let's start with Brooks. Okay. And Brooks' question, and could you repeat it, Aaron?
Oh. I already got one of them. What was yours?
How do you stay committed to something that you have no control over?
Well, first of all, let's break that down. Okay. It's interesting that you would think that you could only be committed to something if you have control over it. That's how controlling you are.
To me. I knew it was going to come back to me.
Brooke, this may be surprising to you, but most people are committed to things that they do not have control over. That almost all of life requires you to be committed to things you do not have control over. But you are of the generation with the remote control, and so you think that everything is supposed to be in your hands, under your control. And so my question is, are you committed to anything if you're only committed to things under your control? See, if you're only committed to things under your control, the only thing you're committed to is yourself. Does that make sense? So, except that you only feel the tension when you're not in control. I don't know about you, but when I'm driving, I do not get carsick. But when I'm not driving, I get carsick all the time. When I'm driving, Aaron, you complain about my driving pretty much the whole time.
Yeah.
When you're driving, you're a horrible driver.
My record would show that I haven't been in an accident since I was 17. So,
But when you are in an accident, it's significant.
when was the last time you got in a car accident?
Have I ever been in a car
Yeah,
accident?
you got clobbered in the Lexus, remember?
That guy was speeding through a stop sign. How was that my fault?
I would have dodged it.
Your accident, there was no one else involved.
Yes, there was. Someone hit me. Are you talking about this right now?
You were swerving.
I wasn't swerving. I hit a bump on the 210 freeway, and I had 400 pounds worth of gear in the back, and my car turned, swerved, and the kid hit me next to me. Are you really taking that other kid's side?
No, I'm just playing with you.
You better. I'm glad they hit you in that little pickup truck.
No.
I'm kidding.
No.
I'm kidding.
But my whole point is that when you're in control, you do not feel the dramatic tension of the turns of the movement because
That's true, right.
you're the one in control of the change. And so when you're saying, how do you stay committed to something you're not in control of, you have to realize that that is the only place where commitment actually really plays out in that way. And if you're 100% in control, of course you're going to be committed to it because it's just you. So I would challenge you, think about a situation where you're in control and you're 100% committed. Oh, you're a writer. So when you write, you're 100% in control of your writing, right? Until you hand it to a publisher and an editor looks at it. And then you begin losing some control because they might give you input and say, hey, it's languid, or the pacing is off, or you're not giving enough detail, or the structure is off, and then you start feeling this anxiety of who do you think you are? And you don't know my story. You don't know how to write this, right? And so what I find a lot of times, people who need to be in control rarely take the risk of taking their work outside of themselves.
Are you looking at me now?
And because you lose control once it goes into the real world. And so I have a book coming out, and it's
in September.
September 14th.
This is exciting.
And I didn't give the name.
No, but we will release it soon.
Yeah.
I want to release it with like
Big Bang.
With
sure, we'll wait.
Just at least because you have the cover. You just locked down the cover.
Yeah, just locked it down.
Have you seen it? It's really cool. I like it.
We'll release it when we actually have a conversation about it.
Okay. We'll do a whole thing.
But my whole point is that I have a new editor. He has a lot of input. He has a lot of opinions, a lot of perspectives.
That very filled with sorrow.
He's actually a really brilliant guy, but he doesn't see the world the way I see it. He doesn't see.
It's good though.
He doesn't see the text the way I see it clearly. And there are several places that said, "Hey, I think."
Which text, the Bible or your text, like your book?
My book.
You said like that.
That's the only text that matters as a writer.
Right.
You can disagree with me on the Bible. Don't disagree with me on a paragraph. and I feel it. Like every time he gives input, even when he says, "Hey, I think if we move this here and move this here, it'll flow better." Well, I wrote it in a certain way because I thought the flow was right. It worked best for me. So any change is a bit of an irritant, right? But to get to the end game, I have to be committed to something I don't have complete control over. A lot of people self-publish because they cannot collaborate. And in the inability to be refined is a limiting characteristic in a person's character. And so what I'd say is all my success is because I'm committed to things I don't have complete control over. All of it. Every single aspect.
And you're actually really good at giving up control.
Yes.
Because we could give the argument of we won't do that. But you do. You give a lot of control away. Mm-hmm. You give people a lot of, I would say it the other way, you give a lot of freedom to other people. And then by that, you're not controlling every element. So then you are getting a lot of feedback, or you're seeing a lot of, you are very collaborative. But your books are something you hold very close to your chest and you're not so collaborative with. And it's always been what?
I am collaborative. It's not as easy. It's not as painless. It's not as painless. That's what I will say.
We're not going to go into your real thoughts and your editors, but you often really do enjoy them as people.
Yes.
And don't enjoy them as editors. But I don't think you enjoy the editing role. I don't think any writer enjoys the editing role. It's a crucial thing to a book. It's also a very brutal thing.
It's a different talent. An editor is not necessarily a good writer. Sometimes when an editor gives me, well, how about a line like this? I always think, you can't write. It's that's the worst line I've ever heard. And
their job is to literally edit and to
refine.
And to ask questions. The best editors ask questions.
Yeah.
Could you open this up for me more, or why did you make this so short, or why did you make this longer? Mm-hmm. Right. I think at least when I see the edits on your books, you tend to respond the best when they're asking questions. And challenging in that way versus I didn't like this.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. The best editors to me are the ones that ask questions and force you to reflect on why you did what you did, or why you're doing what you're doing, and is there a better way of doing it?
Yeah.
But my whole point of that is the process of having a finished product is about being committed to things you cannot control. And once you sign that contract, you've basically signed a contract that says, I'm no longer in complete control of my own work, which is challenging. And so if you think about it, when you're working on a film as a director, you're not in complete control. Even though you're the director and you have final say, you're not in complete control. In fact, a lot of directors, they're not even in complete control because the final edit, the producers will destroy the film. And I've heard a lot of directors talk about how we had a great film until, and
till the studio got it.
Yeah, I mean, can I just drop one name?
No,
I can't.
I don't know which one you're gonna drop.
No, so I had a brief conversation with
Yes.
Tom Hardy, and
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Don't
see.
say the movie though.
no, I see, and he was talking about how this particular film he was in was so much better before it was edited.
So they took out all the humor.
It took out the humor and the romance,
Yeah.
and he felt those were the two things that were most powerful in the film.
Yeah.
And so
And it wouldn't be the film people would think.
no,
That's
no,
the funny thing.
yeah. But I just wanted to say that because I actually had a conversation with Tom Hardy. I think he's awesome. But my whole point is like to me, he's one of my favorite actors.
Yeah.
So you would think he would have total control,
Yeah.
but he doesn't have total control.
No.
But he has to be fully committed to something he does not have control over. Does that make sense? So if you look at anyone in life who has achieved greatness, their genius is oftentimes the ability to be fully committed without having full control and still having an outcome that reflects their talent, their genius, or their commitment. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting too, right? When you talk about movies, you're like, these guys give, it's never just it's almost never one take. You know, they're giving multiple takes of the same thing and letting someone else choose which one is going to portray the emotion or the comedy or the you know, the different dynamic of the scene. And so a huge part of it is like I can bring what I can bring, and then it's up to everyone else to decide whether that works for them. And so you have to know your role within. I think that leads us into the original question of like, how do you lead when you follow? Because it's ironic that a movie lead is the lead actor in a role or lead actress in a role, or right?
Yeah.
Or a lead supporting.
But they're not really leading.
Yeah, no,
They're following.
they're following.
Yeah.
But they're trusting and they're giving what they can to the movie. Because I do think it's interesting. Because I was just watching a show called Entourage, which is like I don't recommend it to anyone on this podcast. But it's interesting because they show you kind of the behind the scenes of like, you know, this like fictional actor and like what as he gets older he wants more say, he demands it, I get this where I walk, and it's like it's interesting because and I think we can all be like that when we're on a team and we aren't clear, we don't have a clear perception or posture or awareness as to like our function on the team. Mm-hmm. And I think you see it with a lot of people. You see it with pastors. You see it with musicians and bands who they leave the band because they think they're the most important one. You see it you see it in chefs. You see it in almost every walk of life, arena of life, where you have this identity issue of like, am I more important than the thing I'm a part of? Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. And so I think a great reminder is this reality that like don't like because I think young people get confused and I get confused. We're called leaders, but we're not leading, right? Yeah. So why do people? Why is it? It feels like this guise of like, well, you're leaders. Everyone's a leader, but you're not all leading. So why say everyone's a leader? But is it because we're incapable of understanding our function?
No, I mean, I think some of it is generational ego.
No, because we talked about this. We don't call it. We used to call everyone volunteer staff, and we don't call anyone staff.
Right.
Because it's not. Because it's, you know.
No, but each generation's language is responding to something that happened before them.
Okay, so why do you call everyone leaders?
Well, I don't call everyone a leader.
There was a season, though.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and,
why did we?
Well, back then we called everyone a leader to say everyone can have influence, everybody can make a positive impact.
Okay.
And now we don't call them leaders because it seems generationally 20-year-olds already believe they are better leaders than people who actually are leading. And so to reinforce that is actually almost like adding fuel to narcissism. So you're actually dealing with different cultural dynamics at each point. And if you have a culture where people have low self-esteem and do not believe in themselves, you have to speak like leadership language into them saying, hey, you can lead, you have influence, you can do so much good right now.
Yeah.
If you have a culture where everyone thinks because they grew up winning every participation, trophy, because they were always told they were the best, because they were always told that they were already awesome. You actually have to put in other characters like humility and gratitude and sacrifice and servanthood. So it just kind of depends on the environment that you're dealing with, what conversations you need to have, And so I was fighting against the concept of membership in the church, where people had the sense of entitlement. I'm a member, and so everybody votes on everything, whether they had a relationship with Jesus that was actually intimate, or whether they were the worst human being on the planet. They were a member of the church. They had like an equal vote. And I just thought this membership thing is horrible. So we talked about volunteer staff, saying everyone who comes to Mosaic is actually here to serve the world. So we weren't saying we're on staff because we get a benefit. We were saying the only reason to join Mosaic is that you're coming to serve humanity. And that was the posture we were working from. Of course, now you have this like dramatic sort of like cancel culture and Me Too culture, and so if someone was volunteer staff and they were just someone you didn't even know because they were part of thousands of people
then
who may
a
have
former
joined,
staff member makes a statement on,
and then you
XYZ.
go, wait a minute, they were not like a staff person like you're thinking. They were a person who came to Mosaic and became a volunteer staff member, but that was only an honorary kind of declaration. It wasn't that they had any spiritual development. It wasn't that they had, ever been vetted. So we have to change that language now that we're in a different culture, because we're going, okay. So now it's almost like, I don't want membership. I don't want volunteer staff. You're just attending, and I'm taking no moral social responsibility for everyone who's walking into the building at some point.
But it came from a good place of going like, hey, you have leadership and you have creativity and you have these attributes that God has placed inside of you. Yeah. But I do think, you're right. Like there is this this interesting cultural thing with young people. They're like, how they call me a leader, but I'm just on a team and I can't control anything and I can't change anything. And I'm like, no, you're not a leader. You're a follower. But you should be proud to be a follower. Like, can you find value? I do think we have a generation that has lost value in the like simple things. The wax on, wax off moments. Yeah. Right? With like the next Karate, like people don't even know
everybody
that,
needs to go back and watch the original Karate Kid.
Not that Cobra Kai garbage in the
Wait a minute. I'm not going to let you bring this.
What? No, what?
Bring that hate.
We like the people who made that.
Do we? Nah, bro. That's what makes me sad about the Valley. That's what,
it's Encino, but it's the truth. It's the truth of Encino. But no, I'm going to just admit it. I watched Cobra Kai and I thought this is so cheesy.
So cheesy.
And then I watched the second episode and thought, oh, this is so horrifically cheesy. Then I watched the third episode and thought, oh, you know what? King David delivered cheese when he killed Goliath, so it's not that bad. Well, then, next thing I know, I've watched every episode.
But here's the thing. I don't mind cheese. Like, I messed with Bridgerton. I watched Bridgerton. But yes, there were a lot of sex scenes in one episode. There was a lot of like his butt. And I don't need that, so I fast forwarded. But I also thought it was funny. I was like, oh, Christians will love this because it's all about like having sex after you're married. The whole show is about that. So you know what I mean? But then, if you think about it, it's like this is great. But like I mess with cheese, but I don't like the Valley, and I don't like. It doesn't mean I don't like people in the Valley. I like Sherman Oaks. I like Studio City. But the moment
you love Calabasas.
I love Calabasas.
And I have great friends in Encino, so shout out to Encino.
Or like even Joe Smith, North Toluca Lake. North Toluca Lake.
What is North Toluca Lake?
It's called Burbank. That's called Burbank at that point. But all right, no. What I don't know, the only reason I don't like the show is I get anxious sometimes watching like because they portray like his sad life in the beginning. Right, like the main guys, like how his life became sad.
They both have sad lives. That's the thing. Is that to me, even.
So why I don't like it is because I feel anxious. Because I'm like, that's my nightmare. I don't want to be alone in the Valley in an apartment.
You can't watch Cobra Kai because you're terrified that's your future.
Yes, but like there's also why like my bone to pick with the industry because I like now have watched a lot of kids who got here younger than me because I grew up here and around here. And I had no interest in being in like the acting industry. I wanted to be in film at one point, like writing and directing. But but like I had no interest in ever being an actor. I've watched now a generation of people who are now becoming that guy who still lives in the valley. And when you're 14 and you're with your parents and you're like hustling, it's a different thing. Now when you're 35 and you're still here and you booked, you know, I don't know, one show of like, it's like the Johnny Drama from Entourage thing. It's like he booked, like what is it, 90210 back in the day, and he's like was one episode, and it's like it's a sad thing for me, and it's hard for me to watch because I'm like, man. But then I don't know.
But we got to Cobra Kai. How? Why?
I don't know how we got there.
Oh, because we're talking about Karate Kid, wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax off. Like
this is such a detour from what's important in this conversation.
And that's a bit of the problem with the show, but the great part of the show. No, but I do think that our generation is missing out on this, like the practical, simple value and finding purpose and value in doing the simple things, being a part of a team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was such like respect and honor for being the guy who made shoes, or like, you know what I mean? Like creating being a part of society in that way. And I think, I don't know. So I don't want to lose that in our society and in our generation.
Yeah. And so let's restate the question.
How do you be a leader when you can't change anything?
No.
Yes.
How do you lead when you're not in charge?
How do you leave when you're not in charge? That's what it was. That's not what I said. My bad.
I guess, yes. So you have to break that down.
How do you leave when you're not in charge?
How do you lead when you're not in charge? So I guess I have to ask you a fundamental question. What in the world makes you think you should be leading when you're not in charge? Right? I mean, that's the question that begs to be asked. And because it reveals a certain psychological posture where you think that you're already better than the people leading you.
Right, but the reason I was asking you the questions at the beginning is I think for a while everyone was told you're a leader, right? But they weren't explained like how to function inside of that.
You're a leader, but you're not the leader.
Right. They switched it like French. Like, don't mean anything anymore.
Okay. And the reason is because people only think about leading up rather than leading sideways and leading down.
Right, because you can lead with your posture, you can lead with your attitude, you can lead with your diligence.
Right, but how do you lead when you're not the leader? You don't try to lead where you're not given leadership. You lead where you are given leadership. And so, like Kevin, and he has all kinds of friends that don't go to Mosaic. In fact, he may have more friends that don't go to Mosaic than almost anybody I know. And he's constantly influencing their life toward good.
Yeah.
And so when Kevin is helping me and he's like, helping me move furniture or helping me move boxes or something like that, he may not look like a leader, but Kevin's always leading.
Yeah.
And he's never asked the question, how do I become a leader? Because he's already leading the people that he loves.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times what happens is that when we ask that question, we want to lead in an area that we've not been entrusted. And the reason we haven't been entrusted is we're not leading in the areas that we have been entrusted. So I'd say is lead where you're entrusted and watch how that trust grows, and you'll get to lead in other areas where you have not yet been trusted in. And there's so many places in the world that I'll go and I don't have any influence there. And I could say, well, how can I lead when I'm not the leader, right? And yet the reality is that if you build friendships, if you earn trust, if you serve others, your arena of influence grows and grows and grows, and you end up leading in places that you haven't even been given a title, and you don't have a position because of the relationships you have with people.
That's awesome.
Which I think is pretty wonderful.
I do too.
Yeah.
I think we could wrap up on that. Yeah.
Any follow-up question, Brooke?
Yeah. So let's if you don't agree with the decision.
Now we're getting to the real issues.
What decision?
Any decision.
Any decision that your leader makes, how do you follow well? Please don't make it about me.
I don't know, because I think that's a big statement, and there's a lot of situations that could be in that, right?
Right, because if you don't agree with the decision, if it's not about something moral,
right? If it's like a tactical,
it's a tactical decision, then you need to decide whether you trust the leader, not the decision. Look, early on.
Well, I think we have a generation that just goes, we don't trust anything.
I know.
Or anyone except for ourselves.
And what's
our
crazy,
few
like
friends.
When I started conceptualizing Mosaic in my imagination there was no church like Mosaic.
Right.
And when I would talk about how we could create this, no one on my team could see it. And I had to basically say, do you trust me? And I was able to build enough trust where people would say, I can't see how your idea is going to work, but I trust you. And even in my marriage, like I would say 99% of the decisions I've made, Kim would have a emotional, visceral reaction against it. Mm-hmm. And because Kim would be more of a restorative person and not necessarily a futuristic person. Mm-hmm. But Kim trusts me, so she moves forward with me. And a huge part of the problem is that we think every person's idea, or every person's decision needs to match what we think that decision should be. And so then you end up in an organization where really no one is following. You have complete anarchy. And so if you're working for Apple and they decide to come out with the iPad and you can't see the iPad, you just don't think it's a good idea. Mm-hmm. Do you quit because you're working at the Genius Bar at an Apple store?
Yeah.
No, because you understand it's not your role to decide what the next piece of technology is.
Yeah.
The problem is that in the church,
right,
everyone thinks that their opinion is as of equal value and merit mm-hmm. as the people who are leading.
Yeah.
And the reality is that it's not.
Yeah.
When I go to the doctor's office, I have opinions, but the doctor has expertise.
Yeah.
When I'm talking to an architect, I have opinions, but the architect has expertise. Mm. And yet when you go to church, you go, oh, I have opinions, but that pastor doesn't have expertise. He just has an opinion too. And so part of the challenge is that we don't see pastors as actually professionals. And if they're professionals, then we see them as sellouts. And the reality is that pastors need to be great leaders. And then you have to trust their leadership capacity. When I first took responsibility for a church 30 years ago, they were $1 million in debt, had $100,000 of deficit, and had around $1,000 in the bank mm-hmm. because of incompetent leadership. Mm-hmm. And I'm really good with money. Mm-hmm. I turned that organization around within a year mm-hmm. and made sure it was out of debt, out of deficit, and had money in the bank. And a huge part of it was just because a person is good at speaking or understanding the Bible doesn't mean they're good at finances. It doesn't mean they're good at like business development. Mm-hmm. And some of the mistakes we make sometimes is that we think because we're good at one thing, we're supposed to be good at everything. We don't build good teams. Mm-hmm. So I would say on the flip side, as a leader, you need to recognize what your strengths and weaknesses are. Mm-hmm. But as a follower, you need to recognize that the person who's leading is making decisions from a level of insight that you may not have. And I'm going to use one political example for this, and that's when President Obama, before he became president, on his platform said, I'm going to close Guantanamo. After he became president, 8 years later, Guantanamo was still open. Now, if you don't like President Obama, you can use that as saying, you see, he didn't keep his commitments.
I like Obama. I'm just laughing at this.
No, I use this as an example because I think it's a legitimate understanding of the role of leadership, that when you're a politician running for an office, your level of information is different than when you're the president holding that office. Yeah. And we have to understand that many times when a candidate's running for an office, they don't have the information that the person who holds that office is having to deal with. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's so easy to be judgmental of presidents and to admire candidates. Mm-hmm. And it's the same way in leadership. And when you're a follower, I don't assume I know everything that the person in charge knows. I know everything I know, but I may not know everything they know. Mm-hmm. And so I try to give people a huge sphere of respect and honor, and saying, look, that person is a person of integrity. I've always trusted them. This decision doesn't make sense to me, but it doesn't invalidate their life of trustworthiness. I'm going to trust them as a decision as long as it's not a moral decision or a moral mistake or something like that. But it's like, how many times I had to relocate Mosaic? How many times I have to give up on a building and move to another place? How many times we'd have to go from one service to 5 services and 5 services to 3 services? How many times we make decisions like we're going to tear out a stage or we're going to gut a building or we're going to, like, those decisions are all subjective opinions of what might be the best thing to do. And other people can disagree, but they're not moral. They're just strategic. And what if I make a decision and it's the wrong strategic decision? Does that make me a bad person? No, it just makes me a human being who is a leader who had to make a call and it wasn't the right call.
So I have a question, because when we started Venice, and it was still in Santa Monica, and that's a whole nother story. But Venice and Santa Monica are next to each other.
Yeah.
And so venues would pop
You went
on
back
different
and forth,
sides
back
on
and
different
forth,
parts of the border. But we were at kind of 2 main venues, and we ended up being in this spot in Santa Monica for a while. But then there was this young couple, super dynamic, super great. Were you in Venice with me ever? No, it was your husband. It was me and your husband dealing with this. So you kind of were to some degree. Yeah. And this couple, super, like, they'd come from churches, they knew the language, they knew the speak, which we don't use. So, like, it's easy to pop because you're like, oh, you're not from here. You're using certain verbiage a lot. And but I could tell quickly that they were pretty, I wouldn't say toxic, but I could tell pretty quickly that they were grabbing people to start their own thing. Mm-hmm. And I think in the moment, I was really nervous. I was like, oh no. And I remember I had to sit down with them right before I left for London. And I was like, okay, we're gonna do this right now because I got on a plane in an hour. You're doing stuff and I want you to stop it. And if you wanna do it, go. And that's fine. And we're happy for you. Now looking back, I'm like, oh, I needed them because they took all the low-hanging fruit I couldn't get rid of. And low-hanging fruit meaning people who came to Mosaic or wanted to come to the campus because they wanted to be a part of something, but they didn't really connect and they didn't necessarily want to be there that much. So they went with them. And it wasn't a split by any means, it was like 5 people. But I was like, it was perfect because it kind of reveals the people that were around you. And I don't think they necessarily disagreed with the leadership. They just thought they were better leaders than me and could go do it. And they probably were better communicators, but they weren't better leaders than you. And it was like, and I was like, this is where I was pretty secure because I was like, I may be the figurehead in this place, like the manager here, but I wasn't the spiritual leader. It was obviously and so clearly you, and we were connecting to you. We were patching into the head guy and to the team. And so when they were like, we're gonna leave, I was like, go for it, because you can maybe be more dynamic than me. Most people are. You're not gonna be more dynamic than the main guy. And everyone who left was either back within a few days or they didn't come back and they didn't stay with them. They just moved on because they weren't actually connected to a source that was healthy.
I mean, there's so much to learn there because you do have people who come through, especially like churches.
Especially in LA, cities. Yeah.
And a lot of times they'll come acting like they're coming to make a contribution. They're actually trying to pull together their own group of people to do something on their own.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because my sense is that toxic people only can inspire toxic people.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, it's sort of like doing this dialysis thing where, it may upset you that they're taking people, but in the end, you'll be thankful for who they took.
Yeah.
And because they're actually taking toxic people with them. And
yeah.
And so I have never, even when years ago when another church came to the city and they did massive advertising to take like people from churches.
Well, we could talk about that actually, because someone did ask me, I don't remember who it was, asked me how is our relationship with the other churches in LA? And I was like, for me, I don't hold grudges. Yeah. So I was like, great. Yeah. And I listed I love this guy, and I love this guy. And I'm not connected to the high, I know them, but you know them. Mm-hmm. I'm friends with one kid that brings them coffee or something, or is on their team, or babysits or whatever. But I remember I was like, when church started coming to LA, we were kind of the big church who had been here for a while in the city. So people were coming to our church and then recruiting people from our church and being like, you should go to this church, come with me to this church. Yeah. And it was very interesting because I was like, oh, the crew, and it wasn't the leaders, it was their sub people, And I was like, it kind of did mess with the topography and the relationships of churches in LA, at least from us. Mm-hmm. What is that?
But
make,
see,
does that
when
make
I had
sense or no?
A lot of our pastors came to me upset saying,
this church is
taking hundreds of people, and this church is taking hundreds of people. And I said, are they taking your leaders? And some of them said yes. I said, all right, then you should go thank them because you were investing in the wrong people.
Yeah.
Because if these are your leaders and they left with this new church, you would have invested another 3 years in them and then they would have left.
Mm-hmm.
And so you should be thankful that they actually extricated those people because you got to get better at selecting leaders.
Yeah.
And so I've never been really a person that's upset when other churches quote like steal your people because they're not our people, you know. And you can't steal our people. Our people are committed to each other. You can't steal me. And I mean, and I said from the very top years ago, a massive church came and asked me if I would leave to go, you know, lead their space. And I said, yeah, I don't have, you know, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah.
They go, no, take some time to pray about it. I said, I don't have to pray about it because I already know.
Because I don't want to do it.
Because like I don't need to pray about something I already know the answer to. And the part for me is like, you see, you can't steal me because Mosaic isn't my job.
No.
It's just my community. I'm the people. And so I never worry about it. And this is, I think, a part of the whole point of this is that following takes as much character and as much commitment as leading.
Mm-hmm.
That a great follower is a person to be admired.
Yeah.
Just like a great leader is a person to be admired.
Yeah.
Because I always considered myself a great follower. When I was on someone's team, I did everything to make that person successful. Mm-hmm. And I still see myself as a follower and as a leader. There are times I'm following you. There are times I'm following Mariah. There are times I'm following Tass. There are times, you know, like I don't pretend I know something. Mm-hmm. Like when someone's better at me at something, I just line right up and said, "Hey, can you help me figure out how to do this?" Or can you lead this? And you know, when you guys are putting together like merch for Mosaic, a lot of times I don't even know what's coming out till I see it. Like you know, oh, that's so cool! Look at Mosaic Studios. Oh. I remember mentioning that possibility. I didn't know that we're going to do that at Mosaic, and I never got, and I don't even get upset because I'm like, they're an expression of the genius and creativity and beauty and wonder that I've committed my whole life to, and I just love the fact that we have a church that people are leading so freely in so many different directions. That doesn't diminish me; it actually elevates me.
Yeah, and I think, like all things, you're gonna disagree. If you agree with everything, you're not really like if you agree with everything, you're looking for something that serves you, not something you're actually gonna serve and bring something to. You know what I mean?
I don't even agree with everything I do.
No. But I also think there's a commitment to the process of it all. And if you're committed to the process, then you're gonna look at things through a different lens, right? Going like, okay, I'm gonna be this person's friend for 15 years. So like they're gonna have some years where they're not the greatest, and we're gonna be there with them. We have a culture though that finds the bad days and then destroys people on them. So it is countercultural to like the generation that is now of media and society of like, you know, you did this on your worst day, and we're going to make sure you never have a good day ever again. Yeah. And I just think the reality of like long-term commitment and building something and being a part and being an actual leader is being a part of something with longevity. Yeah. And going like, I've been here through all the seasons, the good, the bad, where I was good, where I was bad, and we're going to make a better place together.
I love that. I'm going to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
One day you're going to be a leader, and the kind of followers you're going to get is the kind of follower you were.
Thank you for listening to the Bad Already podcast. I am going to go ponder on that. Thank you for reviewing the episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for checking it out. We are so grateful. You can watch this on YouTube, listen to this on iTunes and Spotify and a bunch of other places. I'm really grateful for what you just said. That was really good.
Yeah, so let's raise up great followers so that we can actually have a generation of great leaders.
Love it. All right. See you next time.
All right.
I'm Bad Already.